Galen, in trying to conceptualize a complete theory of consciousness, I'd like to explore, because there's this plethora of different approaches, different theories, and hard to know how they nest with each other, or articulate with each other, or contradict each other. It's a kind of a beautiful mess. So one approach to it takes a different view, and it asks, what are the kinds of theories that would be necessary for consciousness? And another one said, what kinds of theories would be sufficient for consciousness? So I'm trying to use the necessary, sufficient way of thinking to approach theories of consciousness, all the theories of consciousness. So,
yeah, I'm not sure how to fit myself into that frame. I don't think, as I feel that I know exactly what consciousness is. I'm utterly confident that it's wholly a matter of stuff going on in the brain. And I don't feel that I need to say anything more. I really will leave that up to the neuroscientists. Do you think I can't do that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that if consciousness is there from the beginning, then that is both necessary and sufficient, to use that terminology.
Well, again, I just think the fundamental stuff out of which the brain is made is somehow experiential already, and that evolution has tuned it up into an extraordinary device. I mean, you know the figures, 100 billion neurons and 100 trillion connections, all that between them. That's how it was done. Of course, a lot of it isn't to do with consciousness. I actually, since you ask, I have I rather like the electromagnetic field theory of consciousness. I do think that there's a common mistake, which is to think that it's all, as it were, passages of electrochemistry through neuronal nets, because there are all these great chemical floodings across the whole. It's much more complicated than that. And I think that the picture of just neuronal interaction actually makes it harder to see how it could be consciousness. But I haven't got much to say, really, about what's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I can start by saying, obviously you have to be awake, so there are theories.
Oh, I see.
There are theories in the brain, the reticular activating system that, so that has to be working. So that's necessary for consciousness, at least our kind of consciousness. That's necessary, but certainly not sufficient.
Yes.
So there are those kinds of things. And then the point about the electromagnetic field is right, because there are obviously required are the neuronal connections and the individual neurons doing things, but the binding problem and how to get all together so you have these global activities is certainly possible. That would be, and the question is that some would say that's sufficient for consciousness, which you would deny.
I see.
But you might say that that's necessary for consciousness.
Yes, I see. Okay, so actually what you're talking about here is human consciousness. For one of us to be conscious. So reticular activating system is necessary but not sufficient.
Yeah.
This is all true. But on the, broadly speaking, panpsychist view, there is sort of consciousness all the time, everywhere.
Right.
But in very, very little of it is human consciousness. Actually, since you're pressing me on this, I am pretty sure that there are quite a few relatively high-level loci, places of consciousness within my brain, which I am not the top subject, as it were. Me, as I think myself to be the conscious subject, which I'm not aware of.
Of course.
So I think there's quite a few of those in there, quite apart from the general consciousness that's characteristic of all the matter in there anyway. So it's a very much more complicated story, and I do now understand better what you're asking, because you're asking about what do we need for human consciousness?
Yes.
I mean, for you and me to feel we're conscious.
Yes,
and of course,
yes.
wake, reticular activating system, And then there are lots of very specific hypotheses about which other bits of the brains must be activated, and I should think some of them are on the right track.
Yeah, and the distinction between your view and some of those views is they would say, just to pick the electromagnetic field, that is sufficient, and you would deny that.
I just don't know.
Well, if you're a panpsychist, you have to deny that if it's purely electromagnetic field, that is consciousness.
Oh no, that's right.
So you would deny that, but you would say, you might agree that that's necessary for human consciousness,
yes,
but not sufficient. You have to have consciousness in some fundamental sense to make the electromagnetic field the equivalent of consciousness.
Yes, that's right.